When Julius Caesar was assassinated in 44 BC, he left a coveted inheritance. The power of Rome stretched across the entire Mediterranean region. This was just the beginning. Caesar's heirs, Octavian, his adoptive son, and Mark Antony, his right-hand man, set aside their differences to avenge him. United against the Republicans, they punished Caesar's murderers Brutus and Cassius at the Battle of Philippi in Greece. Victory legitimized their power and determined their areas of influence. Octavian obtained the western provinces and the task of solving Rome's internal issues. Antony, as the architect of the victory, took the eastern provinces, the richest part of the empire. His mission, to conquer new territories with the aid of Egypt. Antony set out to win over Cleopatra, who was suspected of having aided Caesar's assassins. Contrary to protocol, Cleopatra didn't meet Antony as he disembarked. Instead, she invited him to dine on board her royal galley.
Υποψιζόμαστε πως στήριξες τον Κάσιο και τους δημοκρατικούς.
Με κατηγορείς. Πως δεν αγωνίστηκα απλά εις όσους ήθελαν να εκδικηθούν για τον Καίσαρα, ενώ δεν έπαψα να ασχολούμαι με αυτό. Ήμουν δεμένη με τον Καίσαρα.
Γιατί οι ναυτικές δυνάμεις που μας υποσχεθήκες δεν έφτασαν ποτέ προορίσμό τους. Θέλουμε να ξέρουμε την πραγματική θέση της Αιγύπτου και της Κλεοπάτρας.
Ανέλαβα τη διοίκηση ενός στόλου για να σας βοηθήσω. Δυστυχώς, μια φοβερή καταιγίδα με ανάγκασε να γυρίσω πίσω.
Μία καταιγίδα. Εστώ. Αλλά τι έχεις να πεις για τις λεγιώνες που άφησε ο Καίσαρας της Αιγύπτου? Από ό,τι μου είπαν, ο Κάσιος τις κατέλαβε.
Τις έστειλα για να βρουν στο στρατηγό σου. Αλλά αυτός είχε την ατυχία να ιτηθεί από τον Κάσιο, ο οποίος έσπευσε να τις εντάξει στο στόλο του. 2 φορές με απείλησε ο Κάσιος, αλλά δεν τον φοβήθηκα παρά τη μεγάλη στην ισχύ του στην Ανατολή. Όταν ηρέμησε η θάλασσα, ήταν πια αργά. Είχες ήδη νικήσει στους Φιλίππους και εκδικηθεί για τον Καίσαρα. Πράγμα για το οποίο σε ευχαριστώ.
Antony followed Cleopatra through Egypt. This compelling encounter evolved into a passionate love affair. In Alexandria, Antony rested, leading a luxurious lifestyle at Cleopatra's side. As a sovereign of 10 years standing, she ruled over the largest kingdom in the ancient Greek Empire, while Antony occupied the finest post in the Roman world. Brilliant, cultured, and attractive, Antony and Cleopatra believed they were fated to be together. Every day they showered each other with boundless gifts and pleasures. Cleopatra was never at a loss to provide a new kind of activity or performance to entertain him. The Queen of Egypt and Rome's greatest warrior fell equally under each other's spell. Totally enamored, one never left the other's side.
Ce coup de foudre entre Antoine et Cléopâtre à Tarse a fait couler beaucoup d'encre. Les historiens antiques ont parlé de manipulation de Cléopâtre. Elle aurait ensorcelé Antoine. Elle aurait fait de lui son pantin afin de réaliser ses propres rêves de grandeur et de domination.
Shared political interests had little to do with their bond. Antony and Cleopatra fell in love because of who they both were as people. Though in Egypt, Antony didn't neglect his fortune and assets in the East. He had entrusted them to his family before his departure. But they were now at war with Octavian, whose ambitions were plain to see. He wanted Antony's lands and armies. The new situation forced Antony to return to Rome after 1 year, even if it meant putting on hold his undying love for Cleopatra. He led an armada of 200 ships with the aim of personally restoring order in his affairs. The fearful Octavian had cause for concern. Antony had known victory in countless wars. Octavian proposed reconciliation, a smartly thought-out political arrangement which would be hard for Antony to accept. To seal their new alliance, Octavian offered Antony the hand of his favorite sister, the discreet Octavia. Through this arranged marriage, they became members of one family. Rome, exhausted by constant warring, breathed a sigh of relief. Antony spent 3 years at the side of Octavian's sister, his heart torn by the memory of Cleopatra. He reminded Octavian of their tasks, decided when the empire was divided. In the west, Octavian was to rid Italy of Sextus Pompey and his troublesome bands of pirates, while in the east, Antony was to defeat Parthia in order to continue Caesar's conquests. Each would help the other, Antony by sending ships to Octavian, Octavian by dispatching 20,000 men to Antony. Antony returned to the east. When Antony rejoined Cleopatra, none of their passion had died. With the sweetness of life in Egypt, he was confronted by two antagonistic visions of the world, East and West. Torn between Roman and Greek culture, Antony had to choose. At that point, he didn't know he would never return to Rome. Here he led the life of an Eastern prince. Rome criticized him, that he knew, but he paid little attention. The historian Appian tells us, Cleopatra gave him a splendid welcome, and he spent the winter without bearing the insignia of his command, living according to the customs and lifestyle of a simple man. He set aside the concerns and functions of a general and began to wear the square toga of the Greeks rather than that of his own homeland. He spent his days visiting temples and gymnasiums and in discussions with philosophers. He passed time with Greeks in the company of Cleopatra, whose side he rarely left.
Antoine se voit alors comme un nouvel Alexandre, partant à la conquête de la Perse. En plus de la libre disposition des ressources de l'Égypte, il voit dans son union charnelle avec la prestigieuse héritière des pharaons et des Ptolémées un thème de propagande susceptible de rallier à sa cause tous les peuples de l'Orient hellénistique.
Sun and Moon, Alexander Helios and Cleopatra Selene. Their twins were born during Antony's absence. Finally, together they began to bond. Together, they enjoyed the pleasures of Eastern life as part of a group of idle rich. The so-called Order of the Inimitable Life defined those who lived on a par with the gods in luxury and excess.